What's going on, everybody? Today we're watching Double Barrel Gaming, and I gotta be careful what I say today because he threatened to block me. Now, I don't want to be blocked by my favorite content creators, so I'm gonna be very careful with what I say.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. And quickly, just want to address Jagger0718. Appreciate you being here as always. You're here, and we definitely appreciate it. What we don't appreciate is you saying that Crispy has an awful mic, which he explained that his mic died. New one's coming, and if you can't listen to it, well, you know what you got to do, brother. You need to hit the X button right on the corner of your right screen, and don't listen to the show. Sorry, sometimes people's mics go. Sometimes they have to pivot and well, such is life.
I feel like that was a very valid criticism that this guy's mic is bad, and for a podcast, that is very important. If you're gonna listen to a podcast, the mic has to be good, otherwise, there's no point of you being there. The simple reality is he gave you very fair criticism and your ego was too high or your blind friendship to this guy was too high to know that his mic is dog shit. And for running a podcast, you have to control that. It is your platform, therefore your viewers are expecting you to fix it. Now, my mic is also cheap, and I completely acknowledge the fact that it's not the greatest mic. However, I'm not trying to do a podcast, so that truly doesn't matter at the moment. However, let's listen to his mic, who's trying to do a podcast, and see if that was a fair criticism or if it was an over exaggeration.
As it were.
It got a lot of work, boom, over the years. Just saying.
Yeah.
No, it's fucking god awful, and that is a very fair criticism, so I'm not sure if he just doesn't like criticism or what, but let's move on.
My parents didn't have money. My pops was the only one that worked. Mom stayed home and take care of the kids as it was back in the days. I worked super hard as a kid because my allowance was only $7.50 a week. That wasn't buying shit. So I delivered penny savers, I delivered the New York Post, I delivered the Daily News. I did all kinds of odd jobs to try and get money to buy consoles that I wanted to play because I wanted to play everything.
I respect it, I really do. However, most parents are paying out of pocket nowadays as it is really hard for kids to be able to do what we used to do. It is really hard for kids to get a job. It's really hard for kids to make money. It's not as easy as it used to be. However, on top of that, it is also very important to note that as somebody that had to work hard to get what they wanted, I don't want to see other kids have to waste most of their childhood working hard to be able to play simple things that they should have. So therefore, games being on every platform just helps those kids being allowed to play the games where they want to play them and for as cheap as possible.
We knew that these four games, we all kind of knew what the games were, right? We heard it. Famitsu talked about it. Many other of people in the community talked about it. It was going to be Pentiment. It was going to be Hi-Fi Rush. It was going to be Sea of Thieves and Grounded. Those are the four games. Phil Spencer told us that there were only going to be four games. Is that true? Well, I don't know. I still in the camp of believing Phil Spencer. Maybe you don't, and that's fine. Have your opinion. But I think that if he's saying it's four games, it's four games.
Yeah, until Sea of Thieves, Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, and Grounded all release on PS4 or Nintendo Switch. I'm not sure if they're all going to those platforms, but whatever. Until they release on those platforms, they will only release four because they don't want to invest too heavily if they're not going to succeed. However, the second Phil Spencer sees dollar signs, it's going to be a lot more than four. Let's say Grounded. If Grounded sells, let's say, 5 million copies on PlayStation, they're releasing more than just four games. 1000% investing into other platforms. The money is there. If they see it's there, they will invest. It's as simple as that. What's also as simple as that is the simple fact that Microsoft Gaming wants to see more money. Microsoft as a brand wants to see more money from their Microsoft Gaming banner. And if Phil Spencer doesn't deliver more money, he will be fired. So he is in a desperate state of trying to find profit.
Yeah, for me, and we had this conversation yesterday. Shout out to Mr. Badbit and OBM, One Bad Mother. For those that don't know, shut your mouth. Who came by the show yesterday, and it was the same kind of discussion with myself and Danny with those gentlemen, and that is that this is a test, right? I think it's very clear it's a test, and the reason why I come to the conclusion that it's a test, and what I mean by a test to bring more. and I've come to the point of acceptance already. Like I get it. I know what they're doing.
It's not what they're doing. The simple fact is, it's not a test. It's just preparing you for the simple fact that they are going to move all of their games to the PlayStation, and they're going to move most of their games to Nintendo. They want money. They want more money. They want these games to be played by more people. The developers want the games to be played by more people. And the simple fact is, Xbox is trying to get into an industry where there is no exclusives. You just buy a console because you want to buy a console. They don't want exclusives. They've been pretty open about not wanting to do exclusives, and now they're actually moving away from them. Now, I think fundamentally what Xbox is trying to prepare you for, and what actually is a test, is the fact that, well, they're just making sure that the community will buy their games. It's not a test of how the Xbox fan base will react, it's a test about how PlayStation will react.
And then we started seeing the speculation of games that were considered. And I say considered because I do believe those games we heard, the big names, Starfield, Indiana Jones, Halo, Gears, I do believe that those were considered. I don't believe Tom Warren or anybody made that up. I'm sorry, I just don't. I believe they were really are, not were, are considering those still. But this test right here is to see how we would react. So once I saw those games being mentioned, then I was like, okay, you can give them four. Then those four, that could, it was copium. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I guess it's not so bad if you give them those four.
See, what's funny about those four is two of them, aka Grounded and Sea of Thieves, have outperformed Halo Infinite and Starfield in lifetime sales. Now, obviously, they've had more time to accumulate sales than Starfield and Halo. However, Starfield and Halo still having less sales is a pretty humiliating thing for Xbox. Because these games weren't expected to be smash successes, yet they're outperforming their golden childs. The games that were supposed to sell consoles. The games that used to sell consoles. So I think ultimately, those four games moving over, or those two in particular, is more impactful than Starfield or Halo Infinite would ever be.
It's a mixture of that and I guess a bit of hopelessness because at that point you start to get thoughts of this is going to be the end of this platform, and we would go full third party, and to go the route of Sega. None of us want that. We all remember the Dreamcast fondly, but we don't want this to be that.
Well, it's going to be that. The Xbox is going to be remembered how the Dreamcast or the Sega consoles in general are remembered. A fossil. It is a time and place and it will go extinct. Simple fact is, Xbox has no exclusives. They're giving up on their platform, and it's only a matter of time before the Xbox brand goes extinct.
Whether they want to acknowledge that or not. And all of us should have had a problem with that. Let's just be real. Um, but this is a test, and they're going to see how these games do. And again, the reason why I know is because these are very niche titles. So they're going to say, "Hey, let's ease everybody in on our side. Let's ease our Hoove brothers over there on the other side in, and say, hey, here's a highly acclaimed, well, actually, four highly acclaimed games. I shouldn't, cheapen the other ones because they are highly acclaimed too. Uh, Tons of people, millions of people that played them. You know what I mean? What Grounded had 15 million people play it already?
Yeah, Grounded has outperformed Starfield in total sales. Sea of Thieves has outperformed Starfield in total sales and probably in current player base as well. Simple fact is, Starfield is not growing. It's only died and died and died. It is not selling more and more copies, so it is getting outperformed by those two games probably forever. Those games are more important than Starfield or Halo Infinite will ever be to that Xbox console.
He pointed that out. 35 million and 25 for Grounded, or 20 million rather for Grounded. Like that's impressive, right? And I don't think anybody should underwrite that. But so they found some success when it comes to that using Game Pass, right? So they want to try to get that and get money. I get it, but so it's when you look at it, it's like you're not going to make a ton of money off of these games. The only one I think that would do it is Sea of Thieves because it's a gas title. That's the only one I can see that's possibly going to have recurring, um, you know, value for them when it comes to that.
I mean, they don't need recurring value. They just need a couple days of really good sales and they will be just fine. Let's say those games hit 5 to 10 million sales apiece. That is a smash success for Xbox. That is the ideal outcome. And they most likely will hit those sales because they're very good games, and I will give Xbox that. Now I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to cover the entire podcast, one, because that's an hour long, 2 hour long podcast, and yeah, no. And two, because they repeat themselves constantly, and ultimately there is no structure because the host is pretty much as lenient as I've ever seen any podcast host be. Now, if you want to see their podcast, link is in the description. The first link in the description is their podcast. And pretty much it. I have nothing else to say. See ya.